Well, as you can see, I've got the turbo. I've got these little adapters right here. I was going to use, I'm not sure yet exactly where I'm going to use them. I was going to originally put this turbocharger directly onto there like that. I was going to drill out the threads on the turbo and put studs in the cylinder head right there. But instead, I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a blow-through carburetor setup, because it would be pretty easy with this carburetor. And the reason is because it only has the overflow and the vent, which will need to be equalized. So these will need to be equalized. I'll probably put a T to these together and then drill and tap to put a barb onto the intake where it'll be creating boost, so that way it'll equal out the difference inside the carburetor, so it's not pushing fuel back into the tank and out the intake and all that. It's going to be creating boost and run a line up here onto the fuel tank, so that way it pressurizes the fuel tank. So that way as soon as it hits boost or starts building boost, the fuel tank will have however much, I don't know, I'm assuming 7 PSI. You know, say if the turbo's creating 7 PSI, I'm going to assume that the tank will be pressurized with 7 PSI. All right, so I got these flanges made up. They fit pretty nicely. I made these with an angle grinder and a stepper bit. Okay, so I just center punched all these with my punch over here, and I have all these flanges marked out, and I'm going to make the center holes with a stepper drill bit, which I have right here. I'm going to use these. This is what I've been using. But anyways, that's what I've been making holes with. So I'm going to get ready to drill these out first, and then I'm going to cut them out with the... Okay, got those all cut out. They turned out okay. Not as good as I wanted them to, but they turned out all right for, you know, using a angle grinder and a center punch and drill bit and a stepper bit. But what I'm going to do next is sand these off, sand the paint off of them, make them semi-flat, and then use some exhaust tubing that I have to make the connection from here. Let's see, I've got some exhaust tubing in here, but this kind of tubing. Unfortunately, I have to use my wire feed welder, because my TIG welder, even on the lowest setting, it was just blowing right through this crap. And so, I mean, wire feed looks okay. It does the job. I'm by no means trying to show off any of my welds or anything like that, so hopefully nobody bags on that. I'm sure somebody will, but I'm going to get to making these pieces fit up to the carburetor. And the idea is to have the carburetor sitting just like that when said and done, so that way the cable can go up right there next to the fuel filter. Almost forgot to do an update. I get carried away with this stuff. I don't keep a camera rolling, otherwise I would completely forget about it. And yeah. So anyways, you can see I have the header pipe almost done. I got the flange made. It looks hideous right now, but I got the carburetor installed and everything. Also got to do really after I do the exhaust, you just put a gasket in right here, and then put the exhaust gasket in right there, and then hook up the oil lines, and it should fire up. So all I'm doing right now, like I said, is just welding this together. I figured I'd stop for a second, show it. Okay, so I've tried to test drive this and tune it and stuff, and it just wasn't working out with the draw-through setup. So now, the new configuration, I'm going to try this. I'm going to turn the carburetor around, and I'm going to do a pressurized carburetor system. So basically what I'm going to have to do is probably get a T-fitting. This would be what originally went to the wastegate, but the wastegate on this thing doesn't actuate till like, I think it's like 12 or 13 pounds, which this thing will never produce that much. So for now, the wastegate, you can see the spring hanging right there. I've been playing around with this. I haven't had much video because it's been a pain in the ass to tune. I think that's the only vent actually, so really I'm only going to need a T and some small bit of vacuum hose, or even fuel line will probably work just fine. I've been using fuel line to oil the turbo, and the turbo has been getting good amounts of oil too, so that's good. What I ended up doing to restrict the oil flow to the turbo is put a pilot jet from my 450. I had a whole bunch of spare ones. I ended up doing like a 52 pilot jet and shoved it into the hose, and then just ran the feed back into the top of the intake valve tappet. I like the way this turned out because I can use this old header pipe and make a header for it, but I'll probably end up using, I've got other pieces as well, so I'll end up making that a little bit different. You can see my wastegate is just a spring, because I think it's a 4-pound spring. This thing's never going to produce what that other wastegate was capable of doing. I think getting everything all hooked up and just kind of have it coupled together with pieces of radiator hose right now, just to see how it runs. I know it's gonna, as soon as it builds boost or anything, it's gonna spit fuel out here, so that's gonna be something I'm gonna have to accommodate for. I might build a box right here, like an air box, because you need to have it's like 3 times the size of the engine, so like a 300cc air box of some sort right there. And yeah, so I'll see how this runs and see if it's a lot better.